Hi everybody, I'm Ryan, and today we're going to talk about red-green aggro in Standard. This is one of the premier aggro decks in Standard. It's extremely powerful. We're going to talk about card choices, we're going to talk about the overall strategy of the deck, and what the deck is doing and all that stuff, so let's jump into it. So this is the red-green aggro deck. It's pretty much what it says on the tin. It's playing some very, very cheap creatures to be as aggressive as possible, and then finish opponent off with burn spells. Or I guess a burn spell. As far as the lands go, there's not a lot to talk about as red-green lands. I guess the big thing is Rockface Village. You can't use the red mana to cast a non-creature spell. However, it taps for waste, and then you can pay red and tap it to have target lizard, mouse, otter, or raccoon you control get +1/+0 and gain haste until end of turn and activate only as a sorcery. This is decent at face value, where it's just giving most of your creatures are one of those things and just giving them haste and all that stuff. But the cool part about it, ooh, I killed the burst lightning. There we go, got it back. The cool part about it is we have creatures in our deck that have Valiant. So for example, Heartfire Hero is a 1-mana 1/1. Mouse Soldier, so it's a mouse, so it can be targeted with Rockface Village. And whenever Heartfire Hero becomes the target of a spell or ability you control for the first time each turn, put a +1/+1 counter on it. So that includes Rockface Village. And when it dies, it deals damage equal to its power to each opponent. So if you have the mana for it, you can target Heartfire Hero every turn and have it grow every turn. Similar to Emberheart Challenger. Emberheart Challenger is a 2-mana 2/2 with haste and prowess. Already a decent card, but it has Valiant. When it becomes a target of spell or ability you control for the first time each turn, exile the top card of your library until end of turn. You may play that card. That includes Rockface Village, so you can just draw an extra card every single turn when you have Emberheart Challenger and Rockface Village. So there's combos alongside combos with that card. As far as other aggressive creatures we're playing Hired Claw. It's a 1-mana 1/2 lizard, so that counts with Rockface Village. Whenever you attack with one or more lizards, Hired Claw deals 1 damage to target opponent, and you can pay 2 mana to put a +1/+1 counter on Hired Claw. Activate only if an opponent has lost life this turn and only once each turn. Just a very aggressive creature. Remember, it triggers on attack, so you can activate in blockers, because if something's blocking it, that means it has attacked and has dealt a damage. So it's a little bit bigger than it is on face value, and just having mana up and threatening that means your opponent sort of has to respect it. We're playing Pawpatch Recruit as a 2/of. It's a 1-mana 2/1 with Offspring 2. Offspring meaning you can pay an extra 2 mana to create a 1/1 token that's a copy of Pawpatch Recruit. Has Trample, and whenever a creature you control becomes a target of spell or ability an opponent controls, put a +1/+1 counter on target creature you control other than that creature. So this is really good when we're trying to flood the board with the creatures and your opponent has removal spells. They try to remove one creature, we have a Pawpatch Recruit, or even better, a Pawpatch Recruit with an offspring of Pawpatch Recruit, and we just get to put +1/+1 counters on other creatures, which also, by the way, triggers Valiant, like we just talked about. We're also playing Manifold Mouse. Is a 2-mana 1/2 with Offspring 2. We already talked about Offspring. At the beginning of combat in your turn, target mouse you control gains your choice of Double Strike or Trample until end of turn. Almost always you're going to be selecting Double Strike, but Manifold Mouse, without paying mana or relying on our opponent like Pawpatch Recruit, allows us to trigger Valiant every single turn. So there are games that you play turn 1 Heartfire Hero, turn 2 Manifold Mouse, target Heartfire Hero, make it bigger, give it Double Strike, swing for 4. Next turn, trigger Manifold Mouse, target Heartfire Hero, make it bigger. It's a 3/3 now with Double Strike, swing for 6. That is like a normal play pattern. We're also playing Questing Druid. Questing Druid, we're really playing for the adventure side of it. Seek the Beast, where it's an instant where we can exile the top 2 cards of your library. Until your next end step, you may play those cards. So this is a way to allow us to go really long if they answer our initial aggro. And then its front side is you can just cast it, and it's a 1/1. Whenever you cast a spell that's white, blue, black, or red, put a +1/+1 counter on Questing Druid. Most of these cards are red, so we're putting +1/+1 counters on it. It just becomes a beast over time if it's not answered. And then Screaming Nemesis is a 3-mana 3/3 with haste. Whenever Screaming Nemesis is dealt damage, it deals that much damage to any other target. If a player is dealt damage this way, they can't gain life for the rest of the game. So Screaming Nemesis is incredibly difficult to block, especially when you're under threat of Monstrous Rage or Snakeskin Veil, which we'll get to in just a second. And if they do deal with it with damage, or if it's blocked, you can either kill a creature or deal that damage to the face, and then you don't have to worry about your opponent gaining life, which is the bane of these red aggressive decks anyway. As far as non-creatures, we're playing 4 Burst Lightning. Burst Lightning is an awesome shock, or we can pay 5 mana total to deal 4 damage, which can either finish off our opponent or get things out of the way. We're playing 4 Monstrous Rage. Is a 1-mana instant. Target creature gets +2/+0 until end of turn. You create a Monster Roll token attached to it. Monster Roll gives +1/+1 in Trample. So really, this gives +3/+1 in Trample. and then the +1/+1 and trample sort of stays on it. And this is just really good to obviously, like, at face value, to like get over creatures that are blocking. If they're blocking like perfect power and toughness, you can make the toughness bigger so your creature survives and stuff tramples over. It also triggers Heartfire Hero and Emberheart Challenger's Valiance. And if they block a Screaming Nemesis thinking they're going to kill it and Monstrous Rage saves it, some amount are going to trample, and then also the damage that is dealt with Screaming Nemesis, even if it's not lethal, you get to trigger Screaming Nemesis for, which is absolutely disgusting. Snakeskin Veil protects our creatures. 1 mana, put a +1/+1 counter target creature you control against hexproof until end of turn. It makes things bigger. It protects from opponents' removal spells. Specifically, like, also triggers Heartfire Hero, targets Emberheart Challenger, can make Screaming Nemesis bigger in combat, or really make anything bigger in combat, but really make Screaming Nemesis bigger in combat. So can it survive? It can survive and then still deal damage to stuff. We're playing 3 Innkeeper's Talent. Innkeeper's Talent is a 2 mana enchantment. At the beginning of combat on your turn, put a +1/+1 counter on target creature you control. Again, triggers Valiant in these mice. Also, just like making our creatures bigger every single combat is pretty gross. I can level it up to have permanents I control with counters on them, get ward 1, which is pretty solid. It combos with itself. Also, it combos, like, even if you don't put Innkeeper's counter tokens on, or counters on them, combos with Questing Druid and Heartfire Hero that have counters on them already, and even Hired Claw that has counters on them already. And then you can pay 4 mana to level it up to level 3, where if you would put 1 or more counters on a permanent or a player, put twice that many of each of those kinds of counters on the permanent or player, which means every single combat you put 2 +1/+1 counters on things. Snakeskin Veil puts 2. Whenever Heartfire Hero or Questing Druid get counters, they get 2. Just gross. Or again, I keep forgetting about Hired Claw, but Hired Claw as well. So in the main deck, you are being as aggressive as possible, making your creatures really big, comboing off of these Valiant things, and just trying to beat your opponent quickly. As far as the sideboard goes, we're playing 3 Lithomanic Barrage, mostly for the Dimir deck, also decent against the white deck. Torch the Tower is really good against other aggressive decks, also decent against the Enduring cards, being able to exile them so they don't come back. We're playing 2 Scorching Shot, dealing 5 damage to target creature. Really good against opposing Shieldreds, especially as Shieldred is gaining more stock than the Demon in the black decks. But really, it's good against any deck that their plan is to block our creatures. We're playing 3 Urbrass Forge. Urbrass Forge is excellent against decks that want to go really long against us. And the longer they go, the bigger Urbrass Forge gets, and it's really hard for them to answer. We're playing 3 Paw Patch Formation for an answer to the Demon, also an answer to enchantments, so like the domain deck or whatever. And then if there's nothing on the battlefield, it can just replace itself and make a food, which is also totally fine. And then we're playing the 4th Questing Druid in the sideboard, deciding against decks similar to Urbrass Forge, where that are likely going to answer our primary game plan, and we need to be able to draw cards and go really long and have like grindy cards. That is the Gruul Aggro deck in Standard. If you like this video and want to see more videos like this, please be sure to like and subscribe. Check me out on social medias. Links are above me and in the description. Thank you so much for watching. I'll see you next time. Bye-bye.